Well, this is the long-awaited launch of Realign in the season of Advent. We've been waiting for this for a long time. I'm Steve. With me is Bob, and we're going to be doing a little bit of a look at the Advent season and suggesting that Advent is more than a set of values; it's a way of life. And so, the language of alignment or realigning, where'd that come from, Bob?
We always talked about realigning to the mission, that when we gathered on, whether it was Sundays or when we formally gathered corporately, we the practices we chose and our conversations and our gathering together were to realign back to the mission of why God has called us together. And so gatherings like tonight fit in that line, just remembering, because there's so many things that can pull us apart, different ways we can get fragmented or drawn away, so many good stuff. And so we talk about, let's realign to the mission. Faithful, life-giving presence, doing life in the city, finding where God's at work and where he's drawing us to do it.
Mm-hmm. So we're looking at the season of Advent tonight. And we've got this fancy calendar.
So it's a beautiful calendar, Steve. Whether you designed it or you came up with it, but it looks at how the calendar of the year follows two themes: the story of Jesus, and then the story of the people of God of the church through the ordinary days and the ordinary times. But we begin with the Advent season. We work through to the Easter, post-Easter, into the Pentecost, and then the anticipating as we live in life between the times of Christ's ascension and his return. But the new monastic movement looks at trying to find or establishing, rooting ourselves within a liturgy and practices that go back close to 2,000 years. And with the ebb and flow or the fluctuations and the constantly changing culture we're involved in, that can unsettle life by rooting ourselves in traditions and patterns that have gone on before us and have worked through the hard things, come up with patterns we place ourselves into it, and frees us up to respond through the week to the creative movement of the Spirit. But so we begin with the Advent season.
Mm-hmm. So Advent's all the way over here, all the way around to Pentecost, and then it goes into ordinary time. You see the calendar in the middle here. So Advent is it's the story of anticipation. It's a season of waiting. And there's this long expectation for a coming Messiah, stretched all the way back to the prophets, probably like something like 700 years of anticipation of a king who will come like David. And probably the expectation was that this king would come somewhere significant to people of significance into a significant place. And Luke begins his gospel with some notable references. In the days of King Herod, we have Caesar Augustus, we have the governor of Syria, all mentioned as significant people in the context of the day. And we find out that Jesus actually comes somewhere else.
So he comes to the abandoned places, and it's places where Herod cannot see it. We learned from the other Gospels where they had to have people from outside help them figure out what was going on. So God sends the Messiah into the middle of an abandoned place in poverty, and the people on the edges, like the shepherds, were the ones that come and get to celebrate. And, it kind of reminded me of really when we launched back in 2010, it was just sensing God drawing us to the abandoned places. At that time, Windsor with the highest unemployment rate in the country, and the downtown at the low point. And we said, hey, we want to, or this hungering and this longing to be present where God will be present in our city. And when we look at the Christmas story, you see that God shows up, does his work on the edges, outside the city gate, in the abandoned places. And so we started as engaging and looking for God to be present in our inner city.
Mm-hmm. And this is another one of those new monastic marks of moving into relocating to the abandoned places of empire. And we see that Jesus is the first example of that, showing up to the margins. So we've got this season of Advent, and last year, we touched down on Advent every year. And last year we really looked at Philippians 2 and the humility and posture of Jesus embracing slow. We talked about slowing down to the speed of Jesus. He would have walked at 3 miles an hour. And so this year we're looking at a different take on Advent. And really it began with part of what we do every month is we read through various epistles in our morning scripture, and we stumbled upon this one in Romans again, in Romans 12. And what kind of popped out was, wow, this Romans 12 passage actually, it's a beautiful alignment of these Advent values of hope and peace and joy and love. And so we want to just kind of sit with this passage a bit more through this Advent season. So this is from Romans 12, and we'll dive into it.
So let love be without hypocrisy. Detest evil. Cling to what is good. Love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead in honoring one another. Do not lack diligence and zeal. Be fervent in the spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in affliction. Be persistent in prayer. Share with the saints in their needs. Pursue hospitality.
And then it goes on, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud. Instead, associate with the humble. Do not be wise in your own estimation. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Give careful thought to do what is honorable in everyone's eyes. If possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So there's a lot of individual little commands here. The ethic of what it means to be a Christian shows up here. But jumping off the page, in light of Advent, are these Advent values: love and joy, rejoicing and hope and harmony and peace. They're all contained here, these Advent values. And kind of Paul is unpacking them for us and in such a beautiful way. So we're going to walk through them and see how we've been living them out as a community, and see how we can do a little better as well.
So I was thinking that all those descriptions we read in that passage from Romans are prescriptive or descriptive rather than prescriptive. He's describing the application in his context. And so because they describe what peace, joy, and hope and love look like, they change or get extended into every single situation in new ways. And so we see the way we can describe how hope is portrayed in our neighborhoods, and in two practical ways that come to mind, in Taco Tuesday and then Walk for React. We looked at a couple of them. And what we've got is a fractured community. COVID has done a job on our capacity to be together the natural way, and really almost, I think, created a hunger. So when an opportunity comes to draw together, there's hope in that. Folks are longing for it, and it's really kind of resonates with people's hearts and longings. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think one of the reasons Taco Tuesday has been so significant and profound. And so, the picture we have there is of Christy, who has been involved with BWCC from the get-go, like on the edges and participating sometimes, more active than other days. And just her kids getting involved, and then her curiosity of what's going on, and then just embracing it fully. And so these spontaneous acts of hospitality, like this is her checkerboard that she brought out, and then she brings out her meals and cookies for everybody, just going a joyful extra step because there's in some sense a hope. And it gives people a taste of what I think everybody longs for in their heart.
Not a problem. The other side's got tic-tac-toe.
Oh, nice.
I just loved it. When I saw that she did this, I was like, oh, this is creative hospitality. She has like a portable tic-tac-toe and checkerboard game. And the city has built our lovely picnic tables for us, and we get to be creative in this space.
Mm-hmm. Love the look on his face, hey?
Yeah, Josh.
Gosh, yeah.
This is another one for creativity. I just loved how we have the space heater. It was snowing and we're cooking hot dogs and just being creative with what we've got.
And the people involved, like if you look at, there's DWCC people, there's REACT people, there's neighborhood people, but you can't tell. And there's kids and adults. And it is kind of a taste of the way we all wish and long our neighborhoods would be. And it just resonates with us in a creative and inventive hospitality. Taco Tuesday is one of it, and I'm going to miss it. I'm exhausted by 6:30, but 6:37 by packing up, but it's a joyful exhaustion. And then the other way, we had Sense of Spirit drawing us into application of hope. It was a walk for REACT. It was more than just a fundraiser. It was raising hope without sounding too cliche or corny, just for folks who've lost hope. And through the woundedness in their lives, just who do I trust? And a sense of that hermeneutic of suspicion. And would there ever be a chance to hope for relationships again, that life would be healthy and reasonably healthy? And so the walk was a joyful time of celebrating the good things that God's done in people's lives, whether they know it's God or not, or acknowledge it. And so it was being together, learning to love one another, and just enjoy being in each other's presence, which is a taste of what the Trinity is inviting us into, the company of the Trinity, and enjoying the presence of God in our lives, and in us, in God enjoying our presence in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Another of these Advent values is that of joy. And joy, I think, is one of these it's a slippery term. We often try to compare it to happiness to make sense of it. But when we first started Taco Tuesday, it was our Soulful Practices gathering on a different night of the week. And so part of that was this teaching component. We used to try to after the meal, gather for this time of teaching together. But what we found was that the joy, the noise of joy was just so loud. It was like a roar. And we'd have to be leaning in, almost yelling at each other, because the chaos in the park was just this pure animated joy. And I was thinking about how joy is this communally shared value. It's hard to have joy by yourself. There's joy in the noise and in the chaos and in the conversations and the laughter. And so another, coming back to Taco Tuesday, the quad it's the epitome of joy. It comes out every week, rain or shine. It is this quadricycle with a basketball net that can be attached to it. And the kids just ride around and around and around in circles, laughing and hopping on this thing. And then, of course, celebration. It tells us, to rejoice with those who rejoice and be, lamenting, weep with those who weep. And so the opportunity for celebration in the context of the neighborhood, celebrating, just people's birthdays or anniversaries, celebrating just a meal in the park becomes an activity, a communal activity of joy. And then, of course, we've got just the joy of childlike games.
Okay, next one, don't worry. I like the dance, dancing is good. Ooh. Oh, we didn't take out a chair.
Another one bites the dust, and the pep in her step as they're dancing around, just pure joy. And so we get to witness these Advent values played out on Tuesdays.
And classic, the principal is saying, careful.
Yeah. Principal Joe is there. Another of these Advent values is peace, and sometimes we think of this as like individual inner peace, and Christmas might be a time where we're seeking that inner peace in the midst of the tumultuousness of a busy season. And yet peace also points, beyond inner peace to this idea of shalom as a communal meaning. Live in harmony with one another. It's hard to see that Paul is talking about our own personal peace. He's talking about communal peace, shared peace. And so we've had an opportunity to see that play out in communal living in some of our homes where people live together currently, in our immersion home right now, in the men's house before that, women's house before that, recovery house before that. And it takes this mutual longing for harmony, for conflict resolution, to work out our differences. And the more that we live together and are in each other's lives, the more likelihood, we'll experience conflict. Another sort of neat thing, and this, we're sounding like we're just beating the drum of Taco Tuesday, but the idea that a meal is actually an act of peacemaking.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Oh.
All right, adults got one. Okay, next round, you two. No, you're going once. Just one. He already won? Okay, it's tied. Who's the third? Okay, tiebreaker. Yeah!
I included this video in here because this is also an act of peacemaking where we're multi-generational. We're creating peace and harmony within groups that would naturally fragment and isolate and keep to themselves. And so here we've got, a friendly game of rock, paper, scissors to determine who gets to eat first. But really we're developing peace and harmony, developing relationships.
So love is creating families. It's, our verse, we've embraced this stuff from the Psalms or the Proverbs. God places the lonely, the isolated, the fragment into family. And that's a place where love can be experienced. It's not an isolated thing. It's only experienced in relationships. And so wherever we're doing it is meeting people where they're at and drawing them closer and closer into relationships as the Spirit walks them along through Christ towards the Father. And critical to that is us learning how to listen to one another and listen to the Spirit and listen to our neighborhood of what in the world is the Lord up to. And we do it in micro ways. They're not grandiose, big projects. They're just really micro, practical ways of caring for one another. And that's the love that's the glue that holds it all together. And that's not just sentimental, but it's for the good. Practical ways of caring for each other. Meal trains, conversations, time in cars, emerge rooms, early morning phone calls. All these are just small, but another thread that weaves us together and supports our family of loving one another. Most of what we do goes unnoticed by others, and occasionally word seeps out like it has with the school. But we act out our care and concern and commitment to one another, and eventually the world will catch on, as we see on Taco Tuesday.
We got art happening, glitter, pine cones. Are you cold? Anybody cold over here? No? We got the quad out. Hot chocolate, warming up the community. Got some delicious food over here.
So Advent's more than a season of waiting for Christmas. It's more than candles we light. It's a time of waiting and anticipation of the coming of the King. And we'll look with anticipation for peace and joy and love to be just around the corner, like just ready, like turn but a stone and start a wing. It's, as what my favorite poem says, we never know what's going to happen, but we do it with a kind of holy, creative anticipation of being surprised by joy. that these things, Advent, the Lord's going to sneak out around us and jump out and say, surprise. Not in big official ceremonies, but in the unexpected events and places of our day. And we know that tomorrow's our next chance for experiencing that together, of being surprised in an Advent-like way of God showing up in the abandoned places of our neighborhoods.